Good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of Thinking Thursday. I'm Bronwyn Lucas, licensed professional counselor, your host, and I'm glad you're joining me tonight. Tonight's topic is something that a viewer brought to my attention, and it's managing anger. When they looked at it, they said, we see so much with road rage. Can you talk about road rage? And I said, let's expand it a little and talk about anger because it's really all a part of anger. So tonight we're going to talk about anger, and I've titled this "Danger is Anger is One Letter Away from Danger." So when you get too angry, it can be dangerous. As always, we are going to start off with some deep breathing. It's so important. And we're going to find out later on how that can be beneficial with your anger. How can breathing help your anger? We're going to find out. So, for those of you, if it's your first time, let me tell you about our deep breathing. Here's what happens when you breathe in, and we'll talk about this actually some more tonight. You're putting more oxygen into your brain. You're allowing your brain to get what it needs to function best. You're getting all the way to your temporal lobe, and that oxygen is flowing through your body, and your body is able to calm down and feel a little better. So, I want you to breathe with me. So, I need you to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. And one final breath, big in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that breathing is good. It can really help you just kind of get centered. And so I want to say hello to Eugene, Renee, and Erica who have joined us already. So, as tonight, as I said, this topic was brought to me by someone else who said, this road rage is getting crazy. We need to talk about it. You need to talk about it on your show. And I was like, okay. But let's look just at some reasons we might see anger just in society right now, just as a way of starting off. We can look at our political climate from the top down where anger is generated. We can look at the social and racial tension. A lot of anger there. COVID and COVID fatigue. People are not understanding how to deal with it and are getting angry. Grief. Yes, grief has a way of playing into anger. Depression. Past trauma. When things come up that you haven't dealt with, it can cause anger, and it can be in the last column of, I don't know, I'm just angry. And all of these can play into that. I don't know, I'm just angry. So let's just look at anger. Um, if you're here, type in something that you know about anger, just a thought you might have while I tell some truths about anger. Some people say want to believe that, oh, from a spiritual Christian point of view, you can't get angry. But the Bible says, "Be angry and sin not." So you can get angry. It's what you do when you get angry that can be the problem. So yeah, anger is a normal God-given emotion. It's just what you do with that emotion that can cause some problems. Um, Anger is a natural response to things that happen. Some bad things happen and you get angry. That's normal. Now, anger can cause health problems, and we're going to talk about that. Anger doesn't necessarily go away with time. If you don't deal with it, well, I'll just stuff it and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. No, it won't. It doesn't just poof disappear. That's what happened. And that's how rage can come in. That you have held that anger in for so long and you have different layers of anger that it can actually turn to rage. And we don't want that. That's what we're seeing. That's what we want to avoid. So let's look at how anger looks. How does it express itself? One of the ways is verbally, and we can attest to that. Verbal anger is the act of forcibly criticizing, insulting, denouncing another person. It can deeply wound a person. It can include negative comments, innuendos, blaming, shaming, just talking bad about somebody. You know, there is an old saying, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. One of the biggest lies we tell children. Sticks and stones may hurt your bones, and words definitely can hurt you. You can probably think of a time when someone said something to you that just cut to the core. Some of you can probably think of something that happened when you were a child and someone said it. And when you think about it, that hurt is there. People in abusive relationships. There are verbally abusive relationships that are just as harmful as relationships that are physically abusive. So words can hurt. And that anger gets in the way. Before I continue, I do want to invite you, if you're listening, to look under the screen and see the share button and share it because we find that anger is so pervasive. So share so some other persons can get on. The next area I want to just mention is retaliatory anger. Nice big words, but this just happens when somebody's confronted or attacked by someone, you want to retaliate. So when you're retaliating, it's motivated usually by revenge. Or you feel like you've been done wrong and you got to do something because you are not doing that to me. Someone confronts you, you don't want to be punked, you don't want to be bullied, so you retaliate, you act out. And that acting out, sometimes isn't good. Sometimes that acting out can get you in trouble because you act out in such a way that, well, it's just not good for you. Physically. So first are the words. There's just the action because retaliatory anger could be, oh, you're gonna go put sugar in somebody's gas tank. You're gonna take your keys and go, up and down their car. You used to could get away with things like that, but now the cameras everywhere. So that option, not there. So then you're caught for vandalism. But those are some things people have done, to retaliate because they're feeling bad. But there's a physical anger. And physical anger can occur in response to being confronted or attacked. It can again be that I'm going to get you back. Someone says something and, oh, you're not going to talk to me like that. Bam, a fight occurs. Then somebody can end up in jail. All because, that's how you chose to express your anger. And then there's the assertive anger. Assertive anger is the ability to resolve conflicts in a way that is productive and respectful to everyone concerned. It uses feelings of frustration for a positive change. Here are a couple of examples. So nothing, remember I said in the beginning, anger is neither good or bad. It's an emotion. It's what we do with it. Sometimes your anger can push you to make a change. Here is an example. There was I have two examples. One, in this neighborhood, it was sort of a declining hill, and they really wanted a stop sign at the bottom of the hill because wrecks were occurring. They wanted it to be a four-way stop. And someone's child got hit on a bicycle, didn't get hurt terribly, but they were angry because they had been fighting for this. Well, everyone had been talking about getting this change. So the person whose son was hit by a car did a petition, got enough signatures, they fought for it because they were angry that it didn't happen. And as a result of their being angry and their taking action, not only was a four-way stop, I think it actually led toward a light being at this dangerous intersection. So sometimes your anger can push you to do things that need to happen. We look at our political climate. We can be so angry this person has got to get out of office. And when you feel that way, You go and vote, but you don't just vote, you take others with you. You take action. Maybe you join a voter campaign. So when you are angry or displeased about something, you take action. And when you take action, that's what can happen. That can be the positive. But I want to talk for a second about anger in the brain. Anger really, really impacts our body physically, psychologically, physiologically. It's a lot going on. So here's what happens when you get angry. Your prefrontal lobe, I'm going to use a few scientific terms, not too many, literally will shut down. And your reflexive part of your brain takes over. That's the fight or flight. It takes over. So, what happens is the part of your brain that's the reasoning that will allow you to stop and say, okay, this is not a good choice. It is shut down. When you do that deep breathing that we practice, that is giving more oxygen to the brain. That is feeding into that temporal lobe that needs to be fed into. It is also the last part of your brain to develop. So when you're in that fight or flight mode, you're operating at the base of your brain. And it's not designed to make good choices. So when you cut off that part of your brain because you're so angry, that anger can take over and the choices are not as good. Um, your body pumps out cholesterol and a chemical called catechol. Oh, I can not say it now on camera, but it is chemicals that it attacks, and they encourage the fatty deposits to build up in your heart and your carotid artery. So what happens? The chemicals in your body work against you. Bottom line, when you're angry, and that's why it's no wonder people say if you're a hothead, you're more likely to have a heart attack. And you can see people get so angry. That's what happens. In 2015, there was a study that took place it was in the European Heart Journal, and it says that the risk of a heart attack increases 8.5 times higher 2 hours following a burst of intense anger. So that's when you are just at angry enough to fight, to be verbally abusive, to be physically abusive. When all that kicks in, up to 2 hours later, you're 8 times as likely to have a heart attack. It puts you in that. That's because it affects your nervous system, cuts off blood flow to your stomach, diverts, and it goes to the muscles so that you're ready to fight. So your body is totally impacted by this anger. Anger is no joke, it's real, which is why you can feel anger. If you think about it, when you're really angry, you feel it in different places for different people, and for some people it's like you just you're breathing hard, and I promise you when you're doing that, oxygen is definitely not flowing properly um, to your brain. Renee says that anger does all that to your body and more. When you have intense anger, it is not good. But let's look at anger. If you look at this, there's something called the angry iceberg that we use in therapy. If you're watching and not just listening, you see this little tugboat on top of the water and you see the word angry. Well, underneath all that anger, lots and lots of feelings. Underneath the anger might be, I'm embarrassed. I did something, I'm embarrassed, and I don't want anybody to know. So I'm mad at myself. So I got to act out mad at you because you know this about me, and that makes me uncomfortable. So I'm going to be angry. Or you can start off being annoyed and frustrated and disgusted, and it leads to anger. Or just offended. You did what? I can't believe you did that to me. And then you're angry. Or shame, overwhelmed. Sometimes you can have a job where you have 150 things to do and you really only have time to do 10, and your boss wants all 50 done, and that can't happen. And so you're overwhelmed and frustrated, and you can act out in anger, hurt, regret, being trapped or worried, or grief. The grief you feel grief can be manifest itself as anger because you can be angry at the person for dying, and no one wants to admit that you're angry that the person died, but sometimes that's actually what you're feeling and you just haven't been able to put a name on it. Or some people become angry with God. Why did you take them? Why did you take, my spouse? Why did you do this? But can be actually angry. Some people are insecure for various reasons in life, and that insecurity comes across as anger because you're feeling rejected by others. All of these are feelings you can just have just on a normal basis, and they look like anger. I don't know. Drop some other words or thoughts in the comment section. What are some other ways you think you can be feeling that will turn into anger? A lot of things. It could be just frustrated. Another one is tired. One that I don't have on here is hangry. I didn't get to eat, now I'm hungry. I'll tell you a funny little thing about hangry in today. So I get caught up working, and I'm working at home. House ain't that big, kitchen not too far from the home office. But I forgot to eat. I had some cereal this morning, and that was it. And as I'm walking out, feeling like, ugh, it was like, oh, you're hungry. Well, you don't want to be hangry doing the show. Stop and grab something you can eat and drive. But yeah, hangry can get you there. And it's real. Now, and that's part of that whole body response that, different parts of your body are reacting. So, what are any other things that people might feel? Not you. So, if you type it in, we know it's not you. Anything that you may have seen in other people, there may be emotions underneath the anger. Stress. Thank you, Claudia. That is a good one. When we are dealing with stress, man, you can be angry because I don't know what to do. Shoot, and it's just like, ah. And that stress can be part of that. I just don't know. I just can't do it. And stress can be brought on in any area of our life. Your home life can be stressful. Your work life can be stressful. Dealing with your finances, your spiritual life. Man, every area of your life can cause some stress. And Jean said finances. And in this, Fabu says we can be bitter. And when we are bitter, you know what? It turns back to you. Because a person you're angry with or bitter towards, they're going on with their life and you're holding on to it. And going back to that finances, here's the funny thing. Sometimes when people are feeling some of these feelings of guilt, overwhelmed, frustrated, all the things that lead to anger, they'll go spend money because I want to make myself feel better, so I'm going to go buy something. Well, what happens when you go spend money to make yourself feel better? Your finances get worse, and then you're upset, so you get caught in this loop of, man, that is not working for me. It is a crazy, crazy loop that you need to get out of because it's not productive. So that's just some of what anger is. Hormonal imbalance, and that is another one. Thank you. Some good ones I want to comment on. I just looked at the comments, and I'll go backwards. Hormonal imbalance. So there is a physiological response to anger, and a hormonal imbalance can be so many different things. And it can manifest itself, and so you're angry because your body is out of sorts. You just don't feel good. Hormonal imbalances can cause depression and cause other feelings, and you don't know what they are. So you are angry. Anger can come in when you don't know what to do with these emotions. With that said, I don't know. We're going to get to at the bottom of this slide. Betrayal, envy, and jealousy. When people don't treat us the way we feel we should be treated, that causes anger. If you're betrayed, and that betrayal is more important, the more important a person is to you, the more deeply that betrayal will hurt. Gaslighting, envy, and a lot of these feelings, it's how we internalize it. We can internalize the betrayal, or we can decide that's on you. The envy. When you are envious of someone, that is, or jealous of someone, that's your way of saying you want something they have. And a lot of times it's that whole grass is greener on the other side, because you may be looking at what they have, and that grass isn't greener on the other side. It's simply astroturf. It ain't real. So when you get caught up in that, but those are real feelings. So I'm not negating it. I'm saying that when we stop and analyze it, maybe it's something that we don't even need to. Disappointment is another one. That's a good one, Sister Fabu. When we are disappointed and we don't get what we want, one way to manage it is you're angry. Why didn't I get it? I deserve to have it. And don't let somebody else have gotten what you thought you should have. And then that jealousy kind of comes in. So all of these are great ones. These are all things people feel and experience regularly with this anger. And as I said, this came out because someone was talking about road rage. So how does that fit in? A lot of times people are caught up in road rage because they have a lot of anger already going on. When you think about it, we have this anger inside and we don't know what to do with it, so we stuff it. Let me tell you a quick story about a little girl, 12-year-old little girl who managed some anger and didn't manage it too well. So she woke up one morning. If you have children, you know it's that picture day at school. This is pre-COVID, and she had this new shirt her mom bought her, and she wanted to wear it to school that day because she was saving it for picture day and she was going to be cute. Well, she wakes up that morning and she can't find the shirt. She's throwing clothes all over her closet. Mom kept saying, "Come on to the kitchen and eat breakfast. It's time to go." Well, she couldn't find it. Her room is now a mess, and she gets to breakfast to the table and she sees her sister, who is 1 year older, but they're about the same size. Her sister has on her new blouse that she wanted to wear. Well, instead of saying anything like, "Mom, she got on my blouse. Remember you bought that for me for picture day?" Because moms aren't thinking in the morning. They just need to get you out to school. So she's angry, but she stuffs the anger down. Doesn't say a thing about it. Then the cat jumps on the table and knocks her bowl of cereal in her backpack, and it had milk in it. She took her stuff out of the backpack, put it on the table. She thought she put everything back in the backpack, and she just left to school to walk with her friends. Well, she's running a little late and she sees her friends halfway down the block. She yells out to them. They don't hear her, apparently, but she doesn't know that. She just feels they're ignoring her. So she walks to school. She's angry. She doesn't have the blouse on she wants to wear. The stupid cat got milk in her backpack, and now half her stuff is messed up, and her friends ignored her. She gets to her first class. Things are cool. She makes it through there. She's feeling a little better. She gets to the second class. Things are okay. Gets to that third class, it's her math class, and her teacher, she gets ready to turn in her homework, and her teacher asks her for the homework. Uh, oh man, it's still sitting on the table. Now, what teacher is going to accept, "I would have my homework, but the cat jumped on the table this morning and knocked it over and spilled milk over it"? It sounded crazy to her, and it was the truth. So she just took her teacher's, comments that were not positive about her being irresponsible. She's making it through the day. She doesn't want to go have lunch with her friends because, after all, they dissed her that morning. This boy comes by. It was one of those mornings where it's cool in the morning and it warms up by lunchtime, so her jacket was sitting on the bench. He runs and bumps into her, knocks her jacket off, accidentally steps on it, picks it up and gives it back to her, and she is furious because it's her new jacket. But he apologized. It wasn't his fault. She makes it to the rest of the day. She gets home. She sees her little brother. He's 2, and she's thinking, "Okay, I'm going to go play this video game. I'm going to get me some violence out." And she's ready to go play her game, put in the system. She sees her little brother, and he has sticky hands, and he has her game in his hands, and it's now all sticky. She yells and screams at her brother and hits him upside the head. Now, let me ask you, thinking about that, Was it her brother that she was really angry with? Or was it everything that happened that day? It was really that whole day. What happens when it comes to anger? A lot of times we stuff it in. And sometimes we stuff it in because we feel like it's just too much to deal with. So we stuff it and we stuff it and we don't manage it. We don't talk about it. But when you do that, it doesn't make it go away at any age. Now, that was an example with a child. What if it's you as an adult and you go to work and you think you're turning in, have this project due, and you think it's due in 2 days, and your boss says it's due this morning, and you were already late, and he wants to know why are you late? Da, da, da. So, at any age you can have this day where everything, as Eugene says, everything that happens a whole day causes you to lose it, and you will lose it on the wrong person. And sometimes that could be even part of road rage. Maybe it's this person who's had a horrible day, and as Leslie says, you eventually snap. You just lose it. That's what anger looks like. So when I have this list of things that are reasons for anger, our political climate is still filled with hate. There is no other word for it. And that is fueling a lot of anger. And we're still seeing people very divided over an election that happened over a month ago. And people still feeling one way about the outcome and people feeling another. And it is generating a lot of anger. And it's not about to stop. You know, our news is fickle. At one point this year, the social and racial tension was in the news. It's not in the news now, but it still exists. You still have parents who have children when their African American child goes out. You worry. And heaven forbid you got a son who wants to wear a hoodie. You worry. And then you're upset and angry that he can't wear his hoodie if he goes outside because it's not safe. If he just wants to walk to the corner store with a hoodie on, you fuss and you're angry with him because that happened. Don't do that. Da da da. Anger. All of these are reasons. COVID in and of itself just makes people angry. It has changed our lives and it took us by surprise because nothing could prepare you for this. So people are just angry. I don't know what to do with this. I'm just angry. What do I do with it? Grief, as I said, holding on to, and grief is real, and there is no playbook for grief. It can come, it can blindside you, and you can be in a space and place of grief, and you're like, how did I get here? Where did this come from? Um, that's just the way it can happen. But it can come in a way where sometimes you're angry and don't know why, but it may be tied to your feelings of grief and frustration. Um, Someone says it means that it's common to have anxiety when you're upset. Yes, and that anxiety can also lead to anger because you're so anxious and it leads to, well, it steps your anxiety about a situation, be it grief, be it social tension, be it depression and anxiety playing together. Then it's going to, man, it can work its way to where you're just frustrated because oh, I don't even know how I feel. I'm just so tired. And you're frustrated. And then that frustration can grow into anger. Our feelings, our emotions are so they're complex. They're linked together. They're not just separate, entities. Um, I've noticed in my complex an increase of domestic violence, Connie says. And in this COVID time when people are inside more and don't have an outlet, and we talked about the little example of the little girl, she stuffed her anger. So if I'm stuck inside with you, I don't need to be angry with you. So I will stuff my anger and I'll stuff my anger. But then I can only stuff it for so long. I have what I call the balloon theory. What happens when you keep blowing air into a balloon? You blow and you blow and you blow, and it only takes one little bitty puff to be too much, and that balloon explodes. When that balloon explodes, It's not coming back. And that's what your anger does. You hold it in and hold it in and hold it in, and it has to explode. It can only take you can only take so much. And so part of that domestic violence is people already had underlying anger issues, and all of those things we talked about in the yeah, right here, all of the things we talked about, those feelings were already there, feelings of rejection, fear, guilt, grief, the insecurity, the disappointment, disrespect, helplessness, hopelessness, just grumpy, hurt, rejected. All of those were already in place. And then you're stuffing them, and then you don't have an outlet because a lot of your normal outlets are gone, and it explodes. It's not pretty. Not pretty at all. Past trauma. A lot it goes toward the idea of holding everything in. So if you've had trauma, one of the things I'm seeing in my practice, people who have had trauma issues, they've been there for a while, but they haven't dealt with them. They had them nice and buried down. COVID has brought them back alive because the again COVID and the atmosphere in our country, the feeling of tension, which relates to anger, because if you're feeling tense too long, it can manifest itself in anger. Remember, anger is just a way of expressing other emotions that are already there. So those people that have past trauma that had never been dealt with, now is the time for it to come out because it has to go somewhere, and you can only put in so much, and then it happens and you don't know what to do. So what do we do? What do we do with our anger? It's here. We got to figure out something to do with it because it's not going away. Ignoring it is not going to help. So one thing I always like to say, when it comes to your negative emotions, own them. Own your anger. If anger is something you're feeling, own it. Why do I say own it? I can get rid of what's mine. If I own it, it is mine to keep or mine to give away. Well, if I want to manage my anger and get rid of my anger, I've got to own it. Anger is something we don't want to say we have because I'm a good person. I don't have an anger issue. That's for those bad people. That's not me. No, you're human. You are a human. And so if you're angry, deal with it. As I said in the very beginning, even the Bible says, be angry and sin not. Meaning, yeah, you're going to get angry. You're alive. You're well. You're breathing. Stuff will happen to get you angry. It's what you do with it. So own your anger, and until you own it, you can't do anything about it. We had another comment says, "You're so right that grief can cause you to be angry." I'm watching the Braxtons right now, and Tracy is seeing a therapist because she's not dealing with the death of her niece. She had an angry outburst at a wedding. And what happens when sometimes your anger in a situation like that with the grief, when someone else is experiencing happiness, you can't fathom it and you're angry with them, but the anger is because you haven't managed that grief. So own your anger. If you have anger issues, own it. Let yourself know, yeah, I'm angry. I am angry. I'm pissed off. I'm disgusted. Whatever. Own that emotion so that you can manage it. Now you don't have once you own it, that's only the first step. Own it and get help in managing it. That's where maybe it's seeking a therapist to say, I got some real anger issues. I got years of anger issues and now they're coming out. And I'm seeing that in COVID, people who have had years of anger issues and they've stuffed them and stuffed them, but some of their normal outlets are gone too. And wow, they can't deal with it. Identify the source of your anger. Earlier in that slide, we looked at the different things that are underneath anger. What is your source? If you or have someone in your life who has anger issues, could it be disappointment? Could it be I'm not where I want to be in my life right now? I didn't think I'd be at this stage of my life at 40, at 50, at 60, at 70, whatever age. I didn't think I'd be here. And I'm disappointed with myself. And wow, we can be angry with ourselves and disappointed with ourselves, and that leads to depression. That's part of that depression. I'm angry with myself. I'm disappointed with myself. I feel hopeless, helpless because of where I am. Realize it. But when you own it, once you own it, you can give it a name. You can begin to work on identifying where is this coming from. That's where you might need help. Reduce or eliminate causes of anger. Sometimes it's people in your life, and you realize, you know what? This person doesn't mean me any good, and I don't mean them any good. Do I need them in my life? Some stressors you can reduce. Let's say it's your job, and you can't change jobs. You can at least change how you look at it. Or if it is your job and you can change jobs, do so. Kind of hard in the COVID world, and switching jobs is not as easy um, as just, oh, I'm just going to go switch. But maybe there are people in your life and relationships you need to change. I'm not saying get rid of them. Some you might need to, but some other relationships you might just need to look at how you're relating to people, how you allow yourself to be treated, how you treat others, because what goes around comes around. How you treat them, it'll come back. How you treat somebody over here can come back to you on the other side. You reap what you sow. So, begin to think about what do you want to do with it? Find the stressors that you can eliminate. And you know what? Some of them you may not be in your control, but many of them are. The one thing you do have control over is your reaction. Do I choose to allow myself to be angry? Do I choose to not stuff it? Because if you stuff it, you'll one day explode. Do I choose to not let it cause me anger? Do I choose to find another way of looking at it? Do I choose to say, this person just get on my nerves, I can't stand them? Or do I choose to say, I love me so much, I'm not going to let anybody's negative energy bother me. I'm not going to let anyone's negative opinion of me control me. It becomes to a choice. What do you choose to do with that anger? And the last one I want to touch on is practicing forgiveness. A lot of times we're angry because people have done things. And they could be really egregious things. It could be something that, yeah, it was bad. And you feel as if I just can't forgive that. But I can say this, forgiveness is not about you and that other person. Forgiveness frees you up. As a Christian, forgiveness is about you and God. Can you free yourself enough so that you will let God take over that space in your heart where you're holding hate and malice and bad feelings, which will generate anger. When you hold on to unforgiveness, you are going to have anger because you're holding on to what they did. And there are some things that are hard. I can't sit here and say, no matter what it is, you just forgive. No, some things are harder than others. But if you practice and operate from a place of forgiveness, just as who you are, you can free yourself of some of that anger. Some things are forgivable. And you just have to say, you know what? I'm going to let that go. They are going about their life. They're going on. They're not caring about you. But you're harboring this unforgiveness for what? It's not helping you. You learn to let it go. And it's like I say, it's about you. It's not about them. Your forgiveness is not about them. It's about freeing yourself up from the hurt, the pain, the anguish that you may feel. What about you? Are there things in your life you need to let go of? Are there areas in your life there may be a little anger, hopelessness, or a lot of it? Are you the person that could get behind the wheel when you're upset and end up in road rage? Because I know they didn't pull in front of me today. Not today. I'm not ready. Is that you? Or are you the one who goes to the bank and the bank teller is talking to the person and in front of you in line and they're having a casual conversation and there's a line of people here? How dare they do that? Those little things can add up, but they're usually a result of one little thing and another little thing and another little thing. Learn to let some stuff go. As we wind down, if you have any final comments you'd like to share about anger, like I say, it's not your anger. None of you have any anger issues. Other people that you see and know around you in your world, any other comments you'd like to make. But anger is real. Our society right now, our country right now is wrapped up in an angry space. We are. We hate is proliferating. Anger, disgust, hopelessness. People's finances are more stressed because of COVID. So, with COVID in our political scene, it has just devastated our country. But we have a choice to say, how am I going to deal with it? I'm not going to let it, I'm going to own my negative feelings. I'm going to own my anger, and I'm going to find a way to change it. If that is you or someone we know, there are people like myself, therapists, who are here to help you to say, you don't have to live this way. And I will tell you, if you're managing any of these negative emotions, you are not alone. I've had so many people recently come in because of anxiety, because of anger. It's putting stress on relationships because of just, I can't deal. If you're the I can't deal, you're all right. You're not alone. Get help. You don't have to do it alone. So here's my call to action this week. Don't meet anger with anger. Just don't do it. It doesn't help. Practice self-care and check your own anger. I don't have it on here, but do the deep breathing. I have had more than one client attest to how that deep breathing when they were angry has really done wonders. How one person talked about how it saved his job because he didn't get into a fight at work. He just did some breathing and walked away. So practice self-care, practice self-breathing, and check your own anger if it's there. Check on someone who may be isolating alone, especially during this time. And mask up and be safe. It's a time for that. And remember, mental health is just your health. But before we sign off, I do want to let you know, starting in January, Thinking Thursday will have its own page. So I will encourage you to find, and there's one Thinking Thursday with Ms. B, and then just Thinking Thursday. Find the one that just says Thinking Thursday, like that page. We'll be broadcasting from the Thinking Thursday page starting in January, the second week in January. So I'm signing off and saying, remember, mental health is health. It's all about your health. Have a good one. Bye now.